According to officials who keep track of important things, there's not as many of us heading out for adventures in the wild. Sure, there's still lots of people loading up the car and driving to a campsite, as long as there's an internet connection. But to actually pack all the gear in a big bag, put it on your back, and head down a trail or a lake and have to rely on a paper map to find your way, not so much. It's good in a way, as there's still wild places in the globe where you can't book campsites in advance, and the chances of meeting up with others while out is as rare as picking up cell phone service. Welcome to northwestern Ontario and the White Otter Lake and Turtle River area. We are going to share our trip with you, and given how hard it is to actually get there, the lack of smartphone infrastructure, and the noticeable absence of other adventurers, we don't feel too concerned about spoiling everything and sharing our information. But really, it would be so rewarding to encounter others who felt it was worth the effort to share in the joy of this special spot. From our first campsite, with so much to see and do, we were in a bit of a hurry to get started. White Otter Lake is northwest of Thunder Bay, with the jumping off point about an hour north of the town of Atikokan. It's part of an area suitably titled the Turtle River White Otter Lake Provincial Park that stretches 155 kilometers between Ignis to the north and Mine Center to the south, incorporating almost 50,000 hectares or 200 square miles of a non-operating waterway park. As of now, you still don't need a travel permit or campsite reservation. Our first stop was in the north end of the lake to see the famed wooden castle. It was built single-handedly in the early 1900s by a chap named Jimmy McQuaid. It took us 2 days to reach the castle, even with a paved highway nearby. Imagine what it must have been like in 1903 when he started to work on his dream. The closest town back then was Ignis, 30 miles and 18 portages north. There's 100 logs in the building, each one felled, winched, dovetailed, hoisted, and chinked in place by one person. It took him over 10 years to complete and finally get rid of the curse that a friend had issued when he was young, saying that he would die in a shack. Well, over 10 years of dedicated hard work and pride, he proved that wrong. He died in 1918 and is buried on the site in a grave southwest of the castle. As the Turtle River exits White Otter Lake and heads south, there's an abandoned dam and log chute. Turns out that fewer than 100 years ago, the Turtle River was the superhighway for the logs headed for the mill in Fort Francis. All along this route are remnants of the old logging days, including there's an old boat called an alligator on El Druid Lake. It really adds another dimension to a trip in the wilds when you can see evidence of others being here and what they did, whether that be harvesting trees or drawing pictographs on rock faces of what they observed and thought was important to record. There are 39 pictograph sites along the Turtle River that have been found. We only found one on the rapids north of Jones Lake. Jones Lake is very small and filled with stands of dead trees. Atop each tree is a nest. When you paddle through the lake, you can't help but picture vultures atop these trees, scornfully watching you as you go by. On a portage, a chance to change from a vast open lake to the narrow confines of close trees, dense underbush, sporadic windfalls, moss-covered rocks, and small streams. The clear, fresh air on the lake is now changed to a fragrance of pine, moist ground cover, and hordes of bugs. On a warm day, the elated arrival at a new blue expanse is an invitation to escape those bugs. About 85 kilometers west of Atikokan, the Turtle River encounters Highway 11. It's a good spot to transfer over to Quetico Provincial Park and continue with the trip. Because Quetico is an operating park, the interior travel permits that are required need to be purchased at an access point ranger station, like Beaver House on the West End. The ranger let us know that his paddles were locally made. Two brothers, Don and Joe Meany, had started making the bent shaft paddles back in 1964 after exploring possibilities for a design that would keep the wrist straight while the paddle blade was vertical in the water. The result was a more efficient paddle that helped them with several competitions, including the 1967 Canadian Centennial 3,300-mile race. Since 1962, these paddles are being handcrafted at their shop in Atikokan. The company, called XY Paddles, was created in honor of the Canadian fur trade enterprise that existed in 1797. Beavers are nocturnal creatures who much prefer to perform their dam building duties at night. Being able to observe during daylight hours is a rare privilege that requires complete silence. Even the click of a camera shutter could send a warning signal. How is it that such a little fellow can figure out that if they just build a dam, that the water will form a protective lake deep enough to ensure that the water won't completely freeze deep, so that they can still gain access to their food supply stored at the bottom of the lake? Their front teeth are coated with an orange enamel containing iron that adds strength, so that the gnawing increases their tooth sharpness. If there's around 1,000 moose living in the park, the chances of seeing one are pretty good, as long as you're patient. But sometimes it's just sheer luck that you happen to be paddling around a bend in a slightly swampy area at the same time that one of these magnificent 1,200-pound beasts decides that it's time to escape the bugs and have a refreshing bath while nibbling on the local vegetation to add to their 70-pound daily intake. Seeing one in real life is the ultimate otherworld experience. In the southwest corner of the park, Darky Lake has some of the most impressive displays of pictographs. Despite anthropologic studies, no one has ever been able to determine exactly who, when, or for what reasons these pictographs occurred. With the artist's brush believed to be individuals' fingers, the red ochre coloring is from iron ore mixed with a binding agent of some kind, perhaps fish oils. Were the pictographs to mark significant events, notes from alien visitors, dream visions, guardians of spirits in rock cracks, or simply the first attempts at ancient rock graffiti? No answers yet, but with so many sites in Quetico, any expedition could include a search worth undertaking. On a warm day and an urgent need for a refreshing moment, nothing beats what we call an air raid. It's becoming increasingly difficult for folks to embrace the outdoors. An expedition does not come neatly wrapped in a package from Amazon. It requires a desire for self-discovery and very high levels of motivation and responsibility. But it is from the wilds that we originally came, and to provide a sustainable future, it is into the wilds we must return. In questioning attitudes towards the environment, marine biologist Rob Stewart once asked, "Why are we taught Shakespeare and algebra before we're taught conservation and survival? Some things just have a right to be because they are. Are we denying the wisdom to understanding that now?" It takes about 5 days to get into the tempo and rhythm of a canoe trip. If the purpose of the voyage was to better understand, appreciate, and feel a part of the environment, at that point it will begin, and the planning, preparation, packing, and portaging will begin to flow more naturally into an experience that affects you and your fellow travelers deeply. Stepping aside the modern urban life and becoming totally immersed in the bugs and beauty of a self-guided adventure involves a lot of creativity and careful planning. But it's the only way to gain an understanding of how significant and important wild places have been and need to be for our